There is a stillness before transformation, like the quiet before a storm. Imagine the moment when a seed, hidden deep beneath the earth, first feels the stirrings of life, the pressure of becoming something greater than it was, pushing through the soil, reaching for the light. This is how true transformation begins, not with grand gestures, but in the silent, inevitable unfolding of the soul. Carl Jung understood that change doesn't require time, it requires a choice. It isn't something that happens in the future. It is happening now, in this very moment, if we learn to trust the quiet power within. Transformation is not an external event. It is a movement of the spirit, a realignment of the soul with its deepest truth. It asks us to stop looking outside for answers and instead return to the wisdom that resides within. In this moment, you stand at the threshold of profound change. These 4 principles will help you unlock the hidden potential that is waiting to be realized. The change that is not just possible, but inevitable when you align with your true self. Transformation is not about seeking something you are not, it is about remembering who you have always been. Carl Jung taught us that we are not meant to live as mere reflections of society's expectations or the roles we have been conditioned to play. True change happens when we turn inward, when we break through the layers of persona and begin to touch the soul's deep, hidden wisdom. These 4 principles are not about becoming something new. They're about shedding the parts of you that have been buried, hidden, or neglected. It is about peeling back the layers that no longer serve you, revealing the truth of your own essence, which has always been there, waiting to be seen. The process of transformation is a return, a remembering. It is the soul's journey back to itself, and this journey begins when we learn to stop living for external validation and start embracing the quiet, powerful truth within. These principles are your map, your guide, leading you through the shadows and into the light of who you truly are. This isn't a quick fix, it's a call to remember, to return to the deepest part of your soul and to allow it to unfold with grace and strength. The first principle of transformation is to embrace the shadow. Transformation begins when we face what we've been avoiding, and for many of us, that starts with confronting the shadow. The shadow is not some distant concept. It is the hidden, repressed parts of ourselves that we often try to deny. The anger we push down, the desires we suppress, the fears we refuse to acknowledge. It's easy to think of the shadow as something to fear, but in truth, it is not our enemy. The shadow is the keeper of our untapped power, the gateway to our deepest strength. It holds the keys to transformation if we're willing to unlock them. Picture the shadow as a hidden garden, lush and waiting to bloom, but kept behind walls we've built to protect ourselves. Or imagine it as an underground river, powerful and full of life, flowing beneath the surface, waiting to nourish us once we dare to dive deep. Until we face the shadow, until we dig into those hidden parts of ourselves, we remain fragmented. There's a story of someone who spent years avoiding their anger, afraid of how it might be perceived. They built a life that looked perfect on the outside, calm, composed, and under control. But inside they felt disconnected, like something essential was missing. This disconnection is the result of avoiding our shadow, of refusing to acknowledge the very parts of us that need to be integrated. When we ignore our shadow, we live in a fractured version of ourselves. But when we embrace it, something shifts. The anger we feared becomes a source of strength. The fear we denied becomes the fuel for courage. By integrating the shadow, we stop living inauthentically and begin to live in alignment with our true self. Transformation, then, is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who we truly are by bringing all parts of ourselves, even the ones we've hidden, into the light. The shadow is not something to avoid. It is the first principle of transformation, and it holds the power to guide us toward wholeness. The shadow is not our enemy, it is the keeper of our untapped power. Until we embrace it, we remain fragmented. Transformation begins when we look at what we've been hiding and step into its depths with open eyes. The second principle of transformation is to confront the anima or the animus, the inner unconscious opposite gender aspects of our psyche. For each of us, whether we are male or female, there exists an internal counterbalance. The anima in men and the animus in women. These aspects are not just theoretical, they are living energies within us that shape our relationships, behaviors, and sense of self. The anima in men is the embodiment of the feminine, carrying intuition, emotion, and receptivity. The animus in women carries the masculine, asserting logic, strength, and action. But often these energies remain hidden, suppressed or unacknowledged, leaving us fragmented. The true process of transformation demands that we confront these aspects of ourselves, not to diminish one in favor of the other, but to honor the fullness of both the masculine and feminine within. When we avoid confronting these parts, they begin to surface in unconscious ways, through projections and imbalances in our relationships. For example, a man who denies his anima may find himself disconnected from the emotional depth of his relationships, while a woman who neglects her animus may struggle with asserting herself or making bold decisions. The avoidance of the anima and animus distorts our interactions with others, because we end up projecting the qualities we don't own onto the people around us. This projection creates misunderstanding and imbalance. Transformation, however, begins when we stop resisting these parts of ourselves. Jung described this as the sacred marriage, the union of opposites within, where both the masculine and feminine energies meet in harmony. This inner union is essential for wholeness. When we accept the full spectrum of our being, including both the anima and animus, we begin to live more authentically, with greater balance and strength. Without this integration, we are incomplete. The second principle of transformation calls us to face what we've been neglecting, to embrace the parts of ourselves we've hidden, and to allow the sacred union of the feminine and masculine to guide us toward our wholeness. To transform, we must honor the feminine and masculine aspects within us. Jung's idea of the anima and animus shows us that true integration requires the sacred union of these polarities. Without this inner harmony, we live only half of our truth. The third principle of transformation is moving beyond the ego. The ego is the part of us that constantly seeks approval, control, and external validation. It thrives on comparison, on defining ourselves through the eyes of others, and in clinging to a sense of separation. The ego creates a false sense of identity, leading us to believe that we are defined by our accomplishments, our possessions, or the roles we play in society. But the truth is, the ego is a mask, a false king sitting on a throne that isn't truly ours. It tells us a small, limiting story of me, a story that keeps us confined within boundaries, constantly striving for something outside of ourselves. But transformation begins when we let go of that small story. It requires us to release the need for validation, control, and approval, and instead align with something deeper, the self. The self is the true essence of who we are, beyond the ego's limitations. It is the vast, unchanging core of our being, the part of us that knows we are interconnected with the whole of existence. Imagine the ego as a masquerade, a performance we put on to fit in, to be accepted, to survive in the world. But when we realize the masquerade is not who we truly are, we can begin to step into a larger, more authentic narrative. There's a story of someone who, for years, lived according to the expectations of others. They wore the mask of success, of achievement, of being the person they thought the world wanted them to be. But the moment they transcended the ego's demands, they discovered a freedom they had never known, They stopped chasing external validation and began to live from a place of inner truth. By letting go of the small, ego-driven story, they aligned with the larger story of their soul. When we move beyond the ego, we embrace the self, and with that comes lasting change. The transformation we seek is not about becoming something else. It's about remembering who we've always been, beyond the illusions of the ego. The ego tells us we are separate, alone, and in need of validation. But the self knows better. Transformation comes when we step out of the ego's small story and into the vast story of the soul. The fourth principle of transformation is to embrace the mystery of life. Life, in all its beauty and chaos, is a mystery that cannot be fully understood or controlled. We often try to decipher it, map it out, and plan every detail. But true transformation comes when we surrender to what we cannot see and trust in the unfolding process. Transformation demands that we step into the unknown, allowing ourselves to be guided not by certainty, but by faith in the journey. Imagine life as a river without a map. We cannot predict the twists and turns, but we must learn to trust the flow. There is no definitive destination, only the current, pulling us towards something greater than we can imagine. Or think of life as moonlight guiding the way through the dark, a light that doesn't illuminate the entire path, but only the next step. In this space of uncertainty, we can only follow the glow and trust that it will lead us where we need to go. There's a story of someone who stood at the edge of a great unknown. They had lived a life of stability, but something inside of them urged them to take a leap of faith. They stepped away from the familiar, letting go of security and control, and entered the void. In doing so, they discovered a depth of transformation they had never anticipated. They had embraced the mystery of life, and in that surrender, they became more alive, more in tune with their soul's deeper purpose. Embracing uncertainty is the key to releasing control and allowing deeper transformation to happen. When we fight to hold on to what we know, we close ourselves off from what could be. It is only in letting go of our need to control the journey that we create space for the soul to grow. True transformation does not come from control, but from surrender. Life is a mystery, not a puzzle. To embrace the unknown is to surrender to the soul's deeper purpose. Now that we've explored these principles, the question is, how can you bring them into your own life? Transformation doesn't happen just by thinking about it. It happens through action, through integration. Take a moment to reflect on each principle and ask yourself, what parts of your shadow are waiting to be embraced? What ego-based desires do you still hold on to that no longer serve you? How can you honor both your anima and animus within and allow them to guide your relationships? Transformation begins not in the mind, but in the soul. Take a step today, no matter how small, toward integrating the shadow, balancing the anima and animus, transcending the ego, or embracing the mystery of your journey. Transformation is a lifelong process, but it starts with one intentional, courageous step. This is where the power lies, in the willingness to begin, no matter how subtle or quiet that first movement may be. Trust that each small action will lead you closer to the authentic life you are meant to live. As we close, remember, you are already transforming. Trust in that. The principles we've discussed today are not distant ideals. They are the very fabric of your being, waiting to be woven into your life. Transformation is a sacred journey, deeply personal, and unfolding exactly as it should. Know that the soul, though it often moves in silence, knows the way. You are not here to live according to the world's expectations. You are here to live your truth. And when you step into that truth, when you allow these principles to shape your being, the world will recognize the light you've always carried within. You are already on the path, and it's unfolding with every step you take. This is Echoes of Psyche, where the whispers of the soul are heard and remembered long after the world has forgotten.